begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GBNews, and that's what sets us apart. Hello, good morning. Live from Washington, D.C., this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, I had nothing to do with that, says President Trump. Moments ago, he had his say on the latest tranche of Epstein files. It comes on a breaking night of news. Lord Mandelson appeared to have leaked sensitive UK government fiscal plans to Epstein, potentially allowing him to cash in on money markets. And there's Mandy and his wife fronts on your screens now. Very good. Tonight, the architect of New Labour has been reported to police with a top cop saying they will investigate him. And dropping tonight, a big interview in the Times newspaper with Peter Mandelson himself. The lady who conducted that interview, Washington correspondent Katie Balls, joins me live very shortly. I'll also be joined, I'm delighted to say, by Epstein's former lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, in just a moment. And it keeps coming, another breaking story tonight. Sarah Ferguson, her charity has been temporarily shut down as she too is dragged deeper into the murky Epstein swamp. And more breaking news, Bill and Hillary Clinton in the last couple of moments have been confirmed to have agreed to testify on the Epstein scandal in the House Oversight Committee in Congress. That's after they recently snubbed the opportunity to do so. Your turn, Andrew and Mandy. Also tonight.
No one is illegal on stolen land. Nice is all I want to say, sorry.
Oh, it was another insufferable night at the Grammys, and it appears most of the privileged people in that room, including Billie Eilish on your screen there, haven't learned anything from this guy.
So, if you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God.
Welcome back, Ricky. We miss you. Tonight, I'll be joined by someone who was in the room last night at the Grammys when Billie Eilish and co made their silly political stunts.
Our voices really do matter, and people matter, and nice is all I want to say.
I'm so edgy.
She's gone viral overnight, a true rock star of social media. Emily Austin joins me shortly. And
so the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, today in the House of Commons, making her big statement, said that I spent too much time in the Westminster Arms. Now, I suggest Rachel Reeves comes here to the Westminster Arms. Do you know why? She might actually meet some real people and realise what damage she's doing to the economy. Anyway, I haven't got time for all this. Cheers.
Farage a few months ago, but in the morning, he'll put his money where his mouth is and make an announcement on how he plans to save British pubs. I've got all the details ahead of that major speech. I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning. Welcome along to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in Washington is my panel, the former Obama policy advisor, Laurie Watkins, and the executive director of Unleash Prosperity, Tim Dosha. And in London, delighted to say, we have comedian and GBNews superstar, Leo Kearse. Good morning, Leo. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back with you in just a tick. Right, let's move on to the big story. I mean, there is only one story doing the rounds globally, I guess, at the moment, especially in the UK and the US. Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, his career now lies in tatters, and I think tonight prison looms as well. He's been reported to the police amid fresh claims he gave Jeffrey Epstein advance notice of a €500 billion bailout during the financial crisis. Calls for the peer to be investigated relate to documents allegedly sent to Epstein as business secretary in 2009. Serious concerns have been raised that the Labour peer may have committed misconduct in a public office by sending the paedophile the economic briefing, amongst other things as well. It's also worth noting that this charge can carry, unbelievably actually, surprising to me, a life sentence. It's also important to acknowledge that these documents were exchanged after Epstein had pled guilty to procuring a child for prostitution in 2008. And this latest tranche of the Epstein files has been a running sore for the former US ambassador, who was infamously kicked out from his perch in Washington in September. From embarrassing photos of him in his undies to documents revealing that Epstein sent Lord Mandelson 50 grand in 2004 and £10,000 to his husband in 2009. Mandelson says that he doesn't recall any of that. He can't remember receiving any of that money. But so damning are the latest revelations that the Prime Minister now, Sir Keir Starmer, our dear leader, has joined cross-party calls for Mandelson to be stripped of his peerage in the Lords. Sir Keir is also facing pressure from the Tory leader and his own Labour MPs to back a parliamentary inquiry, with his political opponents questioning the Prime Minister's judgment. And it keeps on coming, because breaking tonight, after the Met Police said it had received reports of alleged misconduct in a public office, which it says it will investigate, the government has said it will provide whatever support police need. A spokesperson has said it is rightly for the police to determine whether to investigate, and the government stands ready to provide whatever support they need. So the screw turning on Mandelson, the screw turning also on other characters involved in this sorry Epstein affair, because moments ago, Sarah Ferguson's charity, Sarah's Trust, has announced it will close, quote, for the foreseeable future, just days after new revelations emerged about the former Duchess's friendship with Epstein. Well, this evening, President Trump was asked about his own relationship with Epstein after presenter Trevor Noah made a rather silly jibe about him at last night's Grammys, which, by the way, as a side point, is I think that's going to get him in trouble as well. But this is what President Trump had to say about Trevor Noah.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do, because that whole thing has turned out, I mean, other than Bill Clinton and, Bill Gates and lots of people that there are a lot of questions about it, but nothing on me. But it was even sort of better than that, because they found that Jeffrey Epstein and this sleazebag writer named Michael Wolff were conspiring against Donald Trump to lose the election. So Epstein was conspiring with a writer for me to lose the election. So right there, you know that I had nothing to do with this guy. But yeah, it's a terrible thing. The amount of time that's being wasted. When Epstein was alive, like 10 years ago, nobody cared about it. But they're only doing it. But now it's really hitting back on them, because Bill Clinton is such a big part of it. The Democrats are pushing it. And the problem is that it's turning out to be the Democrats that were with and conspired with Epstein. So I think you're probably going to see a little pullback from them. But think of it, they were working together to try and help me lose the election. But this is the Oval Office, so I guess that didn't work out too well.
And we've just been hearing that Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify on the Epstein investigation after they recently snubbed the opportunity to do so. So, according to the New York Times, in the last few moments, attorneys for the Clintons said their clients would appear for depositions on mutually agreeable dates, and asked that the House Oversight Committee in Congress not move forward with contempt proceedings. So, I guess on the basis of that, if Bill and Hillary have agreed to testify, why not the former Prince Andrew, and why not, I reckon, the soon-to-be former Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson? GBNews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts about that. I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by lawyer and author Alan Dershowitz, who was part of the legal team that negotiated Epstein's 2007 non-prosecution agreement. Alan, nice to see you. Thank you for your company. It's been a whirlwind night of breaking news, and actually the last couple of days and weeks has just been, it's been box office if you work in news with the Epstein releases. Let me ask you, please, you're on a British news network. What did you know about Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson? How close was he to Epstein? Because tonight he denies really all knowledge about A, what he was up to, and B, that he even received 75 grand from Epstein.
I don't know him. I met him once in my life, very briefly, but I have no direct knowledge of anything relating to him. But I do know that we're experiencing a new kind of McCarthyism. And the old McCarthyism, if you knew somebody who was a communist, you were presumed to be a fellow traveler. Today, if you knew Jeffrey Epstein, if you went to his seminars, if you met him, you must be guilty of something. So I'm actually glad that Bill and Hillary Clinton, I also represented Bill Clinton many years ago in his impeachment. I'm glad they're testifying because I think it'll clear the air a little bit. But I want to say one thing that I think your listeners won't like to hear, but it's true. There were a relatively small number of young girls, 14, 15, 16, that Epstein engaged in horrible misconduct with. I know when he pleaded guilty to one 17-year-old, but the vast majority of the women who came and called themselves now survivors and victims were in their 20s or in their late teens. They got $150 or $200 for giving him a sexual massage, and they came back over and over and over again. Women that age have agency. They can decide what to do. None of them were coerced. Some of them, in fact, went out and then recruited other young girls to come and brought them to Epstein. They're not victims. They're co-conspirators. They're perpetrators. So we have to separate the real victims from the people who came in and collected a lot of money, but really were part of the problem, not victims or survivors. That's an important distinction.
All right, well, I hear what you're saying. I don't agree with it. If I had a 17, 18-year-old daughter who was giving a creepy, weird billionaire massages for a couple of $100s, I'd say they were being coerced. Yes, maybe in the eyes of the law, they are legal, but morally, it's disgusting. By the way, Alan, sorry. Why do you think Virginia Giuffre killed herself?
I think she probably felt guilty, but I don't know. I didn't know her. I never met her in my life.
Guilty about what?
Guilty about making allegations.
What did she felt guilty about?
Been accurate. I'm not supposed to talk about Virginia Giuffre because I still have a legal proceeding against her estate. But according to her own statements, she received, I think it was $15,000 or $25,000 for claiming that she had sex with Prince Andrew. I don't know whether that's true or not, but tragically she did commit suicide.
Why did Andrew give her 12 million quid, Alan?
Because his lawyers foolishly settled a case that probably shouldn't have been settled. But remember, too, Virginia Giuffre acknowledged that she may have confused me with somebody else and misidentified me. So we have to look at all of that in context. But I'm not allowed to speak any further about Virginia Giuffre except to say that she acknowledged that she may have mistaken me for somebody else, and that I have from day one denied that I ever knew her or heard of her when she made the false allegations against me.
Okay. Alan, I've got Laurie Watkins here, who is a former Obama policy advisor. She wants to ask you a question. She's been hearing what you've been saying, and she wants to have a chat, if you don't mind. Here's Laurie.
It's just really curious to me that you were saying that there's other victims here besides the survivors and victims of this global child and women trafficking ring that was going on, where now all of the cards are seeming to, this house of cards is seeming to fall, and anyone, Republican, Democrat, purple, yellow, green, black, white, I don't care, should all pay the price for being involved in this. So I hope that we continue to see people testify and be held accountable on both sides. If they're supposed to testify in front of Congress, then they should. Again, that should be for both sides, and that includes the President of the United States as well, if he is called as well. But it's just, I'm very curious at that comment that you made earlier about that there's other victims here, and it's not just the ones that are survivors of these heinous and horrific sex crimes.
In the 1950s, Joseph McCarthy used to stand in front of Congress and say, I have a list. And he would give names, but he wouldn't name the accusers. He wouldn't give information about the accusers. And that's what's going on now. People say they have a list, they have names, but they're redacting the names of the accusers and information. For example, a woman named Sarah Ransom.
Well, you should get mad at Republican members of Congress for that, Alan, with all due respect.
Let me please finish my point. There's a woman named Sarah Ransom.
Because they're supposed to release all of the redacted information.
Let me finish my point. There's a woman named Sarah Ransom. She claimed she had videotapes of Hillary Clinton having sex with young people. She claimed she had videotapes of Richard Branson, of Donald Trump. And then she admitted she made the whole thing up in order to have something on Jeffrey Epstein. Now, is she a victim or is she a perpetrator? I just want to make the distinction between victims and perpetrators and people who are somewhere in between. You can be both.
Okay, I hear your point. Okay, I hear your. Oh, yeah, I've got your point. I don't agree with it. Okay, so you don't. Do you think Epstein was a paedophile? Just so I'm clear.
Well, it depends on what you mean by pedophile. Pedophile usually means somebody that has sex with before they were mature. The people that he had sex with tended to be the youngest ones, 15 or 16, many 18, 19, and 20. You can use whatever word you want, but be descriptive. Don't make it sound like he had sex with 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds, which is what pedophile suggests. But you can use whatever word you want.
Okay, well,
he was a terrible man who did terrible
I suppose it depends
things.
on your definition of a. It depends on your definition of a child. Pedo is Greek for child, and phile is lover, so child lover.
No,
but that aside, regardless of whether you think he was a pedo or not,
the law says that they were children.
Regardless of whether you think he was a pedo or not, what were the likes of what was Bill Clinton doing, travelling to his island, and all the other? What was Lord Mandelson doing, hanging around with him? Prince Andrew. What were they doing around those young girls? That is a question of morality, no?
Bill Clinton never went to his island. Donald Trump never went to his island. He used to have seminars, great seminars with world leaders. And
did you go to those seminars, Alan?
Say it again?
Did you go to them? Did you go to the seminars?
The seminars, of course. He had them at Harvard. The president of Harvard would be there. The dean of the faculty. Everybody would be there. Nobody suspected anything wrong. Again, this is just like McCarthyism. If you know somebody who's a communist, you must be a communist. If you went to an academic event with Epstein, you must be a pedophile. That's McCarthyism. And neither the United States or England should encourage that. If there's proof that anybody did anything wrong, they ought to be punished. They ought to be punished severely. But merely associating with somebody who nobody knew was doing anything wrong until he pleaded guilty.
Why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison? If nothing was going on, Alan, and it was all some academic sort of circle jerk, and everyone's just having a great time, and there were some young girls, but there was no pedos or nonsense there. Why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison?
Why got what? What'd you say? Why what?
I said, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison?
Well, because she was accused of having helped him solicit young women, but that had nothing to do with...
She's been convicted.
What'd you say?
She's been convicted of a crime of trafficking. So if there was no trafficking, what's she been convicted of? Is that some bogus case?
She was convicted of soliciting and helping to solicit. That's a crime. Don't try to put words in my mouth. She was convicted of a crime. Epstein pleaded guilty to a crime. That has nothing to do with people who went to seminars and discussed science with him or involved in other activities that were not in any way sexual. To assume otherwise...
Alan, the point here is you're a very... Sorry to keep interrupting. You're a very clever guy. You're one of the top lawyers in the country. You've won all sorts of top cases. You know the question here, the story that's hitting the headlines is the question of morality. You represented Epstein in 2007 in his plea deal. People such as Mandelson, so on, Ghislaine Maxwell, whoever, Andrew, they kept speaking to Epstein and associating with him after that charge. That's what was going on here. It's a question of association with somebody who agreed to being, quite frankly, as we say in the UK, a complete wrong-un.
Well, he pleaded guilty to 2 counts. One of having sex with somebody who was overage for money. The other of having sex with somebody who was 17 years and 10 months old. And so people did associate with him afterward. Nobody knew the extent of what he actually did until much, much later. But I never associated with him once I represented him. I was his lawyer. I'm proud to be a lawyer for people who are charged with any kind of crime, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'm 87 years old. I've been doing it for 60-something years, and it's the pride of my life that I defend people who everybody thinks is guilty. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. I try to get them the best possible sentence I can. And yes, he pleaded guilty to those charges. He was furious. He fired me. He refused to pay my fee. He thought I was a terrible lawyer because he got sentenced to prison and he had to register as a sex offender. People call that a sweetheart deal. It was the best deal the government could make and the best deal we could make. That's the way the system works.
Yeah, I saw the emails slagging you off. I mean, so in light of what you know about Epstein now, you say you're proud to be a lawyer, and I respect your commitment to your profession. As I said, you are one of the best lawyers in the world. Are you proud of representing Epstein still?
Yes, of course. I'm proud of representing O.J. Simpson. I'm proud of representing Klaus von Bülow. I'm proud to have represented anybody who is charged with a crime. If you're charged with a serious crime, you must get a good lawyer under American law and on British law. And I am proud of representing Bill Clinton. I'm proud of representing Ted Kennedy, proud of representing Donald Trump. That's my job. I defend the Constitution. I defend people charged with crime. I don't judge them. Juries judge them. Judges judge them. Priests, rabbis, and ministers judge them. You judge them. I represent them.
Just before I let you go, Alan, so you think the victims, you think people who are campaigning for the release of these documents, Marjorie Taylor Greene, everybody all over the world, you think they're just, what, making a fuss about nothing?
Right.
No, some of them are real victims who really were abused. Some of them are not making a fuss about nothing. It's much worse than that. They are guilty of either falsely accusing people or they're complicit. And they went back and forth without any pressure. They lived at home. They went to the house. They collected their $200. They went back over and over and over again. And then some of them helped him recruit young girls. We have to distinguish them from real victims and real survivors. I have great sympathy for real victims and real survivors. I have very little sympathy for people who then became part of his gang and helped solicit young girls to bring to him. Those prosecuted.
All I'd say, Alan, I don't know if you've got children or a daughter or whatever, but if I had an 18, 19, 20, even 21-year-old daughter who was hanging out with a creepy billionaire and even willingly taking a couple of $100, which is chump change for a billionaire, to give him a massage and a happy ending, that for me is morally reprehensible and, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And I just...
Moral reprehensible, but it's not illegal. It's not illegal. It's not.
Can you think of the mind of a young 20-year-old girl who's very vulnerable, maybe needs some money, is very influential and prone to vulnerability, and you've got some weird guy like Epstein hanging around?
You're saying that 20-year-old women have no agency. 24-year-old women have no agency. They're not responsible for their own conduct.
20-year-old women are kids to me still. They're kids. I would never get. I'm 36. I would never even willingly. I'd never willingly even get with a girl in a bar who's 20. They're children.
Has agency and should be held responsible. And if she then went out on her own to collect an additional $250 for bringing a 14-year-old to Epstein, he has agency, and that's true of a number of the people who are now on television. I can give you names.
All right, Alan. All right, Alan, thanks very much. Hopefully we'll get you back on soon. Appreciate your time and your honesty. Thank you. That's Alan Dershowitz, top lawyer, former Epstein lawyer as well. As I just said there to Alan, if I met a girl, I'm married, but if I met a girl in the bar who was 20 and who wanted to, go on a date or something, they're kids. It's disgusting. They're children. I'm 36, let alone Epstein or whoever else was getting involved in them. It's disgusting. Right, don't go anywhere. gbnews.com/your say. Mandelson denies any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. Same with the former Prince Andrew as well, of course. More on that in just a tick on The Late Show Live.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Joining me in Washington is my panel, former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and the executive director of Unleash Prosperity, Tim Doescher. And in London, comedian and GB News star Leo Kearse. Lots of comments on your say. I'm getting lots of stick. Mike P has said, Ben, you've lost the plot. Dershowitz made a key point and you missed it. Law is not about morals. Many things are immoral, but not necessarily unlawful. If you don't understand that, give the interview to someone who does. I wasn't questioning Dershowitz's morals. I fully support the fact that everybody reserves the right to an attorney and a lawyer. Fine. The morals I was questioning, Leo, were the likes of Andrew and Mandelson, who kept communication and a relationship with Epstein and Sarah Ferguson after his conviction.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Alan was talking about the McCarthyism of what's going on, forgetting that McCarthy actually did great work and it was essential and we could do with some of that now. He's kind of a hero of mine. But this idea that, you know, people were all innocently, you know, walking along and didn't have any idea about what was going on. Peter Mandelson himself even said, he's a master manipulator. Epstein's a master manipulator. I had no idea. Man, people like Peter Mandelson, aren't these naive waifs walking along being taken advantage of? Everybody in those political circles is an absolute Machiavellian genius and knows exactly what's going on. So even people who aren't directly implicated, I think, would have known what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. I think, you know, if you're on the island, and I'm not saying I wouldn't have gone, but if you're on the island and you're looking around, you know what's going on, but you just think you're going to be safe because Bill Clinton's there, Bill Gates is there, Stephen Hawking's there, you know what I mean? You're going to look around and think, yeah, the CIA are never going to let this out.
Yeah, and even when Alan was saying, look, these girls were 18, 19, 20, 21, they had agency, Tim. As I said, I don't have daughters, but I know of girls who are that age, and they are not in the eyes of the law children, but they are essentially children still. They're, you know, they have no life experience, they have no emotional experience. I mean, they're being groomed by filthy old men with money. Let's just be frank about it. That's the morality I was talking about.
And you're absolutely right about that. I mean, there's no question about it. When you're playing in a snake pit, you're going to get bit. There's no question about it. And so every single one of those guys who was hanging out with Epstein, who was partaking in what he was doing, they have to face the consequences of that, whether that's in the court of law or that's in the court of public opinion. And that's what I wanted to talk about here, is that you've had, you know, 1,000 FBI employees since this became an issue last year. You've had over 14,000 hours of overtime spent on this. It's a huge cost to the American taxpayer to investigate this. So the question is where does this go, and are we going to see that court not just of public opinion come down, but also the court here in the United States of America or even abroad? It's going to be really interesting to see what comes of this, Ben.
Laurie, I know you spoke to Alan briefly there. What's your take?
I'm not a fan of the gentleman that was just on. No, he has his own accusations that have been said against him, and he mentioned that himself. And it was also very curious to me when he was like, I can't talk about this, but then started to talk about it, but then pulled back and said again that he couldn't talk about it, but then he talked about it. It was very interesting to me, but also to say that the people that are being implicated without, according to his, I don't know, his threshold of evidence, that they're also victims now, because people are saying that they have done stuff, and he doesn't think that there is enough credible evidence that justifies that. I think it's a bunch of baloney.
Leo, I'm getting all sorts of stick on people from your say saying over 18 and calling them children. WTF, Ben? Stop painting the world by your own views. I'm sorry, mate, whoever you are. Geordie, 18-year-olds. Leo, what's your take? 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, they're kids. In the eyes of the law, no, they're adults, but they are still children.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not the same as, an actual child, but it's still exploitative and insidious, and it can still, I know victims of grooming gangs who, they were 16. I think technically that means that they were legal. It still had a huge impact on their life and ruined it to a certain extent. So, to say that, on this date...
Some of these girls started as young as 11 and 12 years old.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't mean to interrupt, Leo. It's like a clear... I just want every viewer to understand that in these specific cases with this Epstein ring. I'm also from South Florida. I am very aware of the details of a lot of this because I grew up hearing about this in the local Sun Sentinel, Miami Herald newspaper. Julie K. Brown has been writing about this for a very long time. A very well-renowned reporter down there. Anyway, I'm just saying,
you're absolutely right.
It's horrific, and a lot of these girls started when they were 11 years old.
You're absolutely right.
I wanted to echo what Ben said. As my wife and I welcome in our first girl in June, if she's 18 and she's hanging out with a 65-year-old whoever, I'm going to be knocking on that door and following her around and saying that's morally reprehensible.
Leo, last word to you, mate.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, there's no suggestion that some of the other people, like Bill Clinton, we're not saying he contracted his STDs off an underage girl. But I think people would have known.
Yeah. One comment which is it has got my support. Benjamin, you've said, Ben, wow, as a 31-year-old survivor of childhood exploitation and rape, I've never felt so empowered and reassured as listening to you drive home the point of how it's so harmful what they have done, even if it's the smallest part of the entire part they played, such as being associated after he was found guilty. Thank you, Ben. That was my entire point. I'm not denying that people should have lawyers or attorneys. I wasn't questioning Alan Dershowitz's morality either. I understand he's a top lawyer. He represents who he can, and he got Epstein a good deal. He did a great job, as a lawyer would do and strives to do. My point was the morality of people like Andrew, Ferguson, Mandelson and the rest of them being friends and associating with Epstein still after that conviction. Right, coming up next on The Late Show Live.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
Another day of virtue signalling from Hollywood's elite. That's coming up next. I'm going to speak to the internet superstar who tore them a new one. She's live next.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now, did you see this last night? The Grammy Awards kicked off, and as expected, the talk wasn't on the music or the creativity or the inspiration of the artists. It was actually about what's going on politically, as if we cared what they have to say. Figures from Johnny Mitchell to Justin Bieber wore their Ice Out pin badges, and the awards podium often resembled a campaign rally of sorts. Bad Bunny, who took home 3 awards, yeah, me neither, tipped off his speech with this.
Before I say thanks to God, I'm gonna say eyes out.
And Billie Eilish, picking up her award for Song of the Year, used her platform to give another lecture.
No one is illegal on stolen land. Nice is all I want to say.
How's that for a bit of word salad? Nobody's illegal on stolen land. OK, well, I'll just come to your house then, Billy, shall I? And make myself at home, come in unannounced and see how you feel about that. The event was hosted for the last time by Trevor Noah, another insufferable so-called comedian who chucked some sharp barbs at MAGA supporting Nicki Minaj to a chorus of applause from the clapping seals in the crowd. He's also, Noah, put himself on a potential collision course with President Trump after he joked about Epstein Island. The US president angrily rebuked the comedian on Truth Social with a threat of legal action. Basically, he's saying Trevor Noah is going to get sued, and he addressed that moments ago.
Mr. President, are you going to sue Trevor Noah? Last night in a post, you alluded that something could be coming.
Yeah, well, he said that I spent time on Jeffrey Epstein's island. I didn't. I mean, he's a lightweight, this guy. He's a terrible, I think he's terrible. I thought he did a terrible job at the Grammys. I thought the whole Grammys was terrible. I watched part of it. It's not watchable. But he was a lousy host. I'd say not as bad as Jimmy Kimmel, but pretty close. And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein.
Amongst the crowd of the insufferable wokesters who, as I say, clapping like seals to really lame jokes, was my next guest. She was in the crowd, in the audience, and she's gone absolutely viral online. Tens of million views for her reaction to Billie Eilish. Take a look.
Our voices really do matter, and people matter, and nice is all I want to say.
I'm so
And Emily Austin joins me now. Emily, great to see you. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm so glad you're finally here. I've been trying to get you for the last couple of weeks, not because of the Grammys, but because I just think you're great regardless. But last night, you really took off. You've gone super viral because of your reaction. And you were, Emily, the saving grace in a nest full of, I argue, demonic vipers. Just tell us what it was like being in the Grammys last night.
Thank you. I mean, first of all, I'm saddened that I feel like the entire ceremony of celebrating music excellence was hijacked by political rhetoric, but I can actually shed more light upon why I feel that happened. A lot of these celebrities, just so you know, showed up in regular attire, and once you approach the red carpet, there are folks at the Grammys handing out Ice Out pins. So this was clearly intentional. It was premeditated. They wanted this rhetoric spreading. Fortunately, not as many as I anticipated did speak out, but it's funny that Billie Eilish, who you mentioned earlier when you introduced me, you said, should I show up to Billie's house unannounced and break into her home? Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because someone already tried that. So Billie, who a couple years ago was calling to defund the police, called 911 and now has a restraining order against this man who tried to break into her home. So apparently she's exempt from the nobody is illegal on stolen land because her land is the exception from the stolen land. And if nobody's illegal on stolen land, then how come people's white ancestors cannot be in this land and they have to apologize for being here? But illegal immigrants who are here as of recently deserve to take the land? It doesn't really make sense to me.
What was the reaction like in the audience, Emily? Did you have anybody around you who saw what you were doing and how you were reacting? Did they show your support, or was it literally, as I've described, a nest full of demonic vipers?
I mean, I almost feel bad, but I don't. I was a menace last night. I mean, every time they did something, Ice Out, or there were a few political statements floating around that at some point I remember saying, what about Iran? And everyone looked at me and nobody gave me a look of disapproval. They were almost like, what about it, So I think at some point the hypocrisy just became quite apparent to everyone in the crowd. At some point it just became old. Everyone did give a standing ovation, but in my opinion, I feel like people are afraid to be seen by their peers not giving that standing ovation because everyone there is a sheep and they just follow one another. But for context for the viewers, when I was walking around with this beautiful American clutch, a handful of people stopped me, high caliber, random, everyone in between. They were like, we agree with you. We agree. And I'm like, why are you whispering? Say it with your chest, say it with confidence. But God forbid they're seen being slightly pro-America, then it's over for their careers.
It's so pathetic, isn't it? These are meant to be role models, meant to be the inspiration, leading the next generation into a life of courage and bravery, and they're just all, they're a bunch of sheep. Let me ask you, Emily, the very facts that your reaction clips have, I mean, last time I looked on X, maybe tens of millions is fair to say. You've gone absolutely viral, mental, all around the world. Is that reflective of how much of a bubble these celebrities are in? Because they sit in the Grammys, they all sort of pat themselves on the back and circle jerk about Ice Out. But actually, it shows the majority of your opinion, which is, shut up, we don't care, play your music's great, we don't want to be here for your political opinions. Is that right? Is that accurate to say?
That's how I feel. It's so funny. Some people regard me as an extremist when really I couldn't care less about your political opinion. I ask to not be killed for mine. My whole perspective is I have my opinion, you have yours, except your opinion is embraced by the public and mine gets me shunned and fired and deplatformed. My whole narrative is if you have an opinion that you feel like bringing into, whether it's sports, politics, entertainment, music, whatever it is, then I have every right to bring mine to the table as well without being scrutinized or fearful of losing my job. And I'm glad you mentioned the minority because we're forgetting who the president is. Donald Trump won this election fair and square. He campaigned on deporting illegals. He campaigned on shutting the border. So clearly, majority of the United States wanted this, and now it's unfolding. And let me also remind the viewers, every previous president besides Donald Trump has also deported more people. In fact, so much on a larger scale than the president that it puts Donald Trump to shame. But you didn't see anybody at the Grammys or the Emmys or the Oscars or the Golden Globes condemning that because a Democrat was in office. So it shows you the lack of critical thinking. But personally, I just don't take it seriously.
Yeah, no, well said. Tom Homan was working for the Obama administration. He was awarded a medal for kicking out so many illegals. They called him a hero back then, and they now call him a Nazi. Emily, Tim Dosh is here. He wants to ask you a quick question, if you don't mind.
Emily, great job, great work last night. Look, since 1999, when we were going bye, 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 and we were doing the Britney Spears thing, the record industry netted about $40 billion in today's dollars compared to last year, which it netted about $18 billion in today's dollars. So those are real dollars. Do you credit this to the reason people aren't buying music anymore or supporting it? I mean, it has to be something along the lines with this.
You know, there's only so much a person could really differentiate the talent between the product. So let's say a singer and the music. I really try to ignore people's political opinions, but if it gets to a point that it conflicts with my morals, then I can't. So for example, I still listen to Bad Bunny. I give him the benefit of the doubt that he's misinformed. English is not his first language. He's just being instructed by his team what to do. But a person like Billie Eilish, who is so much of a hypocrite, she never puts her money where her mouth is. She endorses communists, but then she's a capitalist. She makes millions of dollars off of her fans buying her product. She lives in a gated community in $1 million mansion. I just don't like hypocrisy, and so many of these celebrities just have that sense of hypocrisy. So that's where I draw the line. So I feel that they're losing the revenue because fans don't want to hear it anymore. I don't listen to Sabrina Carpenter anymore since her little Trump derangement syndrome rant, and I'd assume many other people are doing the same.
Emily, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And I know our British viewers have enjoyed having you on as well. So hopefully we'll catch up again soon. Emily Austin doing great work at the Grammys last night. Thank you, Emily. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
That I spent too much time at the Westminster Arms.
Nigel Farage has a plan to save our pubs. He's got a big speech tomorrow. I'll have all the details up next on The Late Show Live. Don't go anywhere.
GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello. Hello, welcome back. Right, Reform UK will unveil a plan to cut taxes for pubs and a plan to save the industry and the high street. It's a big deal. It's being reported that Nigel Farage will announce in a pub that VAT for the hospitality sector will be cut to 10% if Reform wins the next election. It's said that this will be paid for by reinstating the two-child benefit cap for everybody except for British working families. Very good. And alongside this, Reform are thought to be pledging to scrap Rachel Reeves' employer national insurance and cut beer duty as well. So what will struggling landlords make of the latest proposals? Will it be enough to save our dying pubs? Well, to discuss this is the landlord of the Dog of Wingham, Mark Bridgen. Mark, good evening or good morning. Thanks for your company. Big speech tomorrow. Do you trust Nigel Farage and Reform to save pubs? Does this go far enough, do you think?
Well, if they follow through on all of these things, it will be an absolute game changer. You know, these are the things that the industry have been talking about for 2-3 years now. So it's nice to see that someone appears to be listening and understands the importance of pubs and how to save them.
Well, it's a long way until the next election, Mark. That's if Reform win. I know they're leading the polls, but I think it's going to be a lot harder than the polls suggest. Until then, can you survive? How's your pub going? Can your colleagues and your friends in the industry survive until then?
Well, it is so hard, as I've said on here many times. It's pretty impossible at the moment. So yeah, it is going to be a real challenge for a lot of pubs. You know, if they keep closing at the rate they are, because the current government hasn't done anything to change the situation. You know, the change on the business rates is a bit of a joke. But maybe Reform's words might spark Labour into listening and maybe bringing about some changes before the next election. I hope they will. This will prick up their ears as well. But yeah, look, the whole industry is doing everything it can to survive. But these words and these plans are what the industry's been talking about. You know, particularly the VAT position. And I know some other politicians that have been lobbying this for years to put us more in line with Europe. Maybe now with a leading politician talking about this, hopefully the current government will listen.
Mark, do you think there's an agenda to get rid of pubs really generally in the UK? I don't know who or you know who would be behind it. I don't know who the powers that be really are. But do you think the powers that be, whoever they are, want pubs to exist anymore? Because they're such important, I mean, as a community hub, for example, it's where people can meet and they can talk and they can discuss plans just as a very superficial reason. Do you think they want pubs to exist anymore in Britain?
I've had this thought many times. It does feel like, you know, the current government wants to see the end of pubs. And if that were their plan, I wish they'd let us know, because I'll go and do something else. Or maybe they, you know, to meet the housing need, they can let us turn our pubs into flats. But that's not what those people that work in it and the people in our village, that's not what they want. They want their pubs to survive. You know, the Dog at Wingham's a great example of a village pub supporting local community, but not just through the drinkers coming in, the 25 local people that work at the Dog, providing livelihoods to their families. You know, it's an important employment provider, an important community asset. And, you know, our pub is the place where people come to celebrate major milestones in their lives. You know, we host, you know, christenings, weddings, funerals, you know, wedding anniversaries, birthdays. It is where people want to go and celebrate, whether it's just a few drinks or a slap-up meal. And yeah, I think they're just so critical to our great British tradition.
Just finally, of course, Farage tomorrow will say 10% off VAT, beer duty down as well. If Labour were listening and they pull another screeching handbrake turn as they've been accustomed to so far, which one of those things would you prioritise? Which one of those policies? The VAT, the business rates?
I think the VAT would be a real game changer. And it's also, it's then relevant to the size of your pub, the amount of sales that you're doing. You know, quarterly, we're sending £50,000 to the Exchequer. Add on to that our you know, the income tax that we collect and the national insurance. You know, I collect over 300 grand a year for the Exchequer. Yeah, I don't get paid. I'd probably do better off going and work for HMRC.
Wow, that's insane. Mark, good luck for the next couple of years.
Thank you.
I'm supporting you. I know lots of our viewers are as well, and our listeners. And I guess you'll be listening with keen ears for Farage's announcement tomorrow. That's Mark Bridgen, landlord of the Dog of Wingham pub. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, gbnews.com/your say. I think, as I said, I don't know who's behind it or particularly, well, I know why, I suggest why. I think there's more of a wider agenda for the abolition of pubs in the UK. I think it's an erasure of British heritage, and also, just very easily to answer, they don't want people gathering and talking and plotting. It's easier stuck behind a screen at home. More coming up in the next hour. First, though, let's get your latest weather update. Back in a tick.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A wet start in the south, but it's also going to turn colder across northern and eastern parts of the UK through the day, and that means there will be some snow in places by the end of the day. Actually, we start with snow across eastern Scotland, mostly over hills. There'll be some sleet and snow showers additionally for parts of Orkney and Shetland through the day. But it's all rain further south, and it's certainly a damp start to the day for many areas, although the more persistent rain moves north and turns more showery across the southwest. Mild here. Elsewhere, it's going to feel cold with a raw east to southeast wind. And that wind will bring even colder air in overnight. So as the main band of rain progresses northwards, we're going to see some snow in places by dawn. At first, it's hill and mountain snow across eastern Scotland, but that's likely to come down to much lower levels overnight. Northern Ireland, a damp start to the evening, but the more persistent rain at this stage is across Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, pushing into the Pennines, the Peak District, where there will be snow falling on the peaks. And that snow tending to settle on higher parts of Wales and northern England, but it will come down to much lower levels for eastern Scotland by the end of the night. We're talking about a little bit of patchy wet snow and sleet right down below 100 metres for eastern Scotland, but more significant lying snow above 200 metres, 5 to 10 centimetres by dawn. So a wintry scene for parts of eastern Scotland, especially over higher areas. First thing Wednesday could be some disruption on some of the higher routes. But that snow level will rise through the day. Milder air is moving up from the south, turning much of the snow back to rain. Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, a damp day to come, but brighter skies for England and Wales, some sunshine in places, particularly towards the southeast, feeling a little bit milder.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Live from Washington, D.C., this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein.
Moments ago, President Donald Trump had his say on the latest tranche of Epstein files. He says he had nothing to do with it. But it comes as Lord Mandelson appeared to have leaked sensitive UK government fiscal plans to Jeffrey Epstein, potentially allowing him to cash in on money markets. Tonight, the architect of New Labour has been reported to police with a top cop saying they will investigate Mandelson. And dropping tonight, a big interview with the man himself. Peter Mandelson has spoken to The Times. Washington correspondent Katie Balls, who conducted that interview for the newspaper, she joins me live in just a tick. Also, I love this, NASA is beginning a crucial test of its Space Launch System rocket, which could see another moon landing. Love it. And
political-wise, not one single person has reached out.
Officially?
Officially, yeah. Not one person.
Did you catch this morning? It was a heartbreaking interview with the mother of Rhiannon Sky White, who, of course, was killed by a deranged, demonic asylum seeker. He wasn't an asylum seeker, he's a legal migrant. It was on GB News earlier this morning. I want to discuss the death penalty around this case and other similar crimes. Do you agree with it? gbnews.com/your say. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live. And remember, no breaks this hour. Right, earlier, GB News spoke to the mother of Rhiannon Sky White, the tragic mother, of course, who was murdered by a Sudanese small boat migrant. He was sentenced last week to a minimum 29 years in prison after killing Rhiannon in 2024. It was a brutal attack. He stabbed her 23 times with a screwdriver, some of those penetrating her skull. She had a poor boy, 3-year-old boy that she left behind. That boy now goes to bed clutching a picture of her mother. The whole thing is just tragic. It's a joke. This is what Rhiannon's mother, Siobhan White, had to say this morning on GB News Breakfast.
Have you heard anything from the government? Are you looking to meet Starmer face to face?
I would love to meet Starmer face to face. Political-wise, not one single person has reached out.
Officially?
Officially, yeah. Not one person. Because Rhiannon's not the first case, and sadly she won't be the last. But we were handed a life sentence today. I had to watch my daughter die.
Yeah.
And where is Starmer? He's got blood on his hands.
How much do you miss her?
I can't. Every day. Every day. Every second of the day. And I'll continue to miss her. Sorry.
No.
Why would you be sorry?
I just miss her. I miss her laugh, her stupidity, because she was very quirky. But I miss her. She came to live with me. We became best friends. We did everything together.
Yeah.
And this scumbag has took her from me.
That was Siobhan White, Rhiannon's mother, speaking to GB News Breakfast this morning. Check out the full interview on YouTube if you can, or on Catch Up. It was, I mean, what a brave woman, courageous woman. How she's able to articulate sentences like that, I don't know. It just is testament to her courage. This case and the case of Southport, Axel Rudabakana, all the other disgraceful wrong-uns who have committed grave crimes in the UK in recent years, it's got me thinking about the return of the death penalty in the UK. Of course, we don't have it. It was gone many decades ago, but we still have it here in the US. There's thousands of people still on death row. And there are calls. I think Rupert Lowe stood up in Parliament some weeks ago saying just that we need to think about, or at least discuss, the return of the death penalty. Would it make a difference? What about the religious aspect of it? I'm going to speak now to former federal prosecutor and candidate for the US Senate in Massachusetts, John Deaton. John, good morning, good evening, thank you for your company. The death penalty is a real fascination for me, because there are lots of Brits back home in the UK who see cases like this and would say, yeah, hang the guy, couldn't give a damn, don't want him to spend 29 years minimum or a life sentence in a UK prison at taxpayers' expense. You have the death penalty in the United States, but for me it comes with so many caveats. It's predominantly allowed in red states, I think California as well, which are also very much religious. So how does that all tie in, and does the death penalty work, I guess, is the big question, John.
Well, listen, thank you for having me. You and I, we're talking about a question, and we're tackling a question that the folks in Westminster bubble don't want to touch, and they're too afraid to touch. But millions of Brits like you and I were screaming at the TV when we see a story like this, that the grieving mother, that criminal, that monster, not only took her, but he stabbed her 23 times, 19 in the head with a screwdriver, penetrating her skull to where she penetrated her brainstem, and she fought for her life. We've got DNA evidence. We've got him dancing minutes after murdering this young woman and making her 5-year-old son, motherless. And in cases like that, I think the death penalty needs to revisit. When you have an absolute 100% guilty defendant in a heinous crime like this, why 29 years? Is he going to get out when he's 56 years old? Because she won't be around 29 years from now. So I think it's a great question to be asking.
Well, the sentence was a life sentence, but the 29 years is the minimum. So after 29 years, he can be considered for parole. If he suddenly has a sort of a change of tune and he's a great guy, I don't think he's ever getting out, but that's just the technicality of it. Has it ever gone wrong here, John, the death penalty? You say for nailed-on cases, and that's my argument as well. I'm saying, look, when it's nailed on, they're literally caught red-handed with blood dripping from their hands. Hang them, don't care. But has it ever gone wrong here in the US?
Well, sure. Listen, there were some troubling things. There were several people on death row, and DNA evidence proved that they were innocent, even though they were convicted by a jury. And so also you got to take in the situation of poverty that plays. If you can afford a really expensive attorney, will the state even seek the death penalty? You look at cases like O.J. Simpson, where he almost decapitated his ex-wife and killed a second person. They didn't even consider the death penalty. So I think you got to take it on a case-by-case basis, like you just said. There are certain cases that it's so heinous and there is no possibility of innocence whatsoever through DNA or other physical evidence, or sometimes you have videos of the death, of the killing. And so in cases like that, why spend the taxpayers if this guy lives 50 years in prison, then that's on the taxpayer's dime. And I don't think I don't think he should be granted the gift of life when he took the life of that young girl like that.
Yeah, and her mother, Siobhan, who spoke to us this morning on breakfast, she said the same. She said she'd support the death penalty. Let me just ask you, John, finally, what about the religious side of it? Because the Bible says thou shalt not kill, or does it say thou shalt not murder? Is that the caveat? Is the death penalty murder in the eyes of the Bible?
Yeah, I think so, but let's also look. The Bible also says an eye for an eye, right? Which is you need to meet the crime, and it needs to be justified. So in this particular case, where you have this monster who stabs her 23 times, 19 in the head with a screwdriver, and then dances afterwards within minutes, I think in those situations that it is murder. It's premeditated murder. He followed her after stalking her at the hotel. And in those cases, I think that a killing of a human being such as him is justified, even under religious grounds.
Yeah, interesting. I think it's going to be a debate which really gains traction in the next couple of years in the UK, John. You guys have it here in some states. I think there are growing calls because the UK has had its fair share of despicable demons. That's the only way to describe them. They're not human, demons walking the streets, committing crimes. The Manchester Arena bomber, Axel Rudabakana, who slaughtered the poor girls at a Taylor Swift dance class. Don't care for them. They don't deserve a life. They don't deserve humanity. John, thank you so much. Fascinating debate. John Deaton, that's the former federal prosecutor and candidate for US Senate in Massachusetts. Leo Kearse, I think you are down the line very quickly. What's your take on the death penalty before we move on, just briefly?
Yeah, I mean, I think a case like this, I mean, the guy is from Sudan and he's not a British citizen. I think British laws are for British people. This man is not British. Why can't we try him under Sudanese laws, which do include the death penalty? I think that would be fitting. I think, quite frankly, life in a British prison is going to be better than any life he would have in Sudan.
Yeah, no, point well made. I would say just deport him, but then I guess he'd go free in Sudan as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's
the solution is, Leo, the solution is don't let these absolute wrong-uns in the country in the first place. I mean, that'd be a good idea.
Why is he even here? I mean, we've got the means to defend our borders. Like, the government can't tell us that we're physically incapable of defending our borders. How many deaths is an acceptable number for Keir Starmer, for the Labour government? How many women have to die before they say, OK, this is getting a bit too much now? How many little girls have to be stabbed to death by people like Axel Rudabakana before they say, OK, perhaps we'll put the brakes on a bit?
Leo, thank you, mate. We'll catch up later on in the show. Stay there, hang tight, grab a coffee, and we'll speak soon. Let's move on to the big story of the night, shall we? The Times has a massive interview with the man dominating the news right now, Lord Mandelson. The interview divulges how his husband, Ronaldo's birthday, on his birthday, he'd been relieved of his ambassadorial duties here in Washington, D.C. and was told to get out of the residence within a week. It was a call from number 10. I think Mandelson describes to the Times how he had a call at 5:30 in the morning and he was told, in the wake of the Epstein revelations, "You're out, mate, pack your bags." Mandelson said, quote, "It felt like being killed without actually dying." Well, these startling details were 5 days before the latest tranche of Epstein files dropped, with some of the most damning allegations against the former US ambassador. And yeah, they were a lot more damning than they were 5 days before that interview. Joining me now is the lady who gave that amazing interview, delivered it to Times readers tomorrow. It's Katie Balls, the Washington correspondent for the Times. Katie, well done, great scoop. Just for clarity, I guess because you conducted the interview 5 days before this latest revelations of files, was it planning to go into the Sunday Times magazine or the Saturday magazine?
Technically Saturday,
right.
But obviously we've moved things ahead. But readers can still get it in print magazine on Saturday. But we did also speak after the revelations came out. So I went and spent the day with Peter Mandelson in Wiltshire about a week or so ago. Then, of course, as you have alluded to, on Friday we had what we are told is the final drop of the Epstein files, in which Peter Mandelson has mentioned many times and there's now very serious allegations. So I spoke to him over the weekend, and that is also in the piece.
That's updated, yeah. It's a great piece. I'd encourage any listeners or viewers to go and buy the paper tomorrow if you can, or sign up online. What was he like 5 days ago, before this latest tranche? Was there a theme or maybe an idea that he was hoping for a big comeback?
Well, I think 5 days ago, the context was he had already done various bits of media. He'd appeared, for example, on the Laura Kuenssberg show.
Yes.
He'd written for The Spectator magazine, my old publication, and he'd also done various bits of punditry. So I think there was a sense of, when we've spoken about the interview, having a more reflective piece, thinking about everything that happened, being a bit more personal. And therefore, I think he was aware of the trouble he had been in, but he was talking about it as a life-changing crisis, almost in the sense that perhaps the crisis was nearing the end. And then, of course, 5 days later, with the latest files, you had a sense that the crisis was, in a way, just beginning.
Yeah, and not least with the revelation that he apparently emailed Epstein, or gave him a heads up on the fact that the euro was about to be bailed out, which would have given Epstein the chance to, well, if you're in money markets, you can just long the euro and make infinite amounts of money. Have you spoken to him since then, since that allegation about the Euro bailout?
No, so the last time I spoke to him for the piece was ultimately on Sunday. So we went through various allegations or claims in the Epstein files, because as we know, there's lots in the Epstein files. It doesn't necessarily mean they're fact, but it means lots of people ask questions. So we talked about the money that went to his husband to help him train. We talked about that $75,000 that apparently appeared in his accounts that he claims he doesn't have a memory of. And he said, for example, Katie, I think I would remember if I had 75 grand. But he was trying to work out, you know, because there are documents.
Do you believe him when he says, I have no recollection of the emails or the 75 grand? I mean, do you believe him?
I think it's tricky in the sense there are lots of things he doesn't remember. Now, it was, you know, over a decade ago. I think there's something which is most of us would know if we had £75,000 put into our account, right? But there was a recurring theme, which is lots of the most damaging things he just said he didn't have recollection of. And then to your point about some of these more specific things, which is where I think the story has gone today, on was he leaking highly sensitive information? Most of the files, because there have been 3 million, that was not something that we directly got to. We talked about bankers' bonuses because at the time of speaking, that was something where people were pointing out, you know, he had given money to his now husband, his partner at the time, Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein was lobbying on bankers' bonuses. So I said, did that not make you vulnerable to bribery at least? Did you? And he said, well, lots of people were talking about bankers' bonuses. And I said, but would you give Epstein heavier weight, in his opinion, for your friendship, for the money? And he said that was risible.
Risible?
Yeah.
Is he arrogant, or do you think he's?
I mean, he's Peter Mandelson. He's always had a slight.
But do you think he's untouchable?
I think he's always had a. There's something about him, right, in terms of his, you can almost see it in some of these files, right? If you have spoken to him formally, informally, he has a certain way of speaking, which is a little bit dry and sarcastic, and there's often a light humour to it, even the darkest moments. So, for example, when I said to him, you know, how's it been? You know, this is in the Wiltshire interview, and he said, it felt like being killed but then not dying. And I said, I don't really know how that feels. And he said, well, it's a very unique experience. I just think he has a slight way of words, and there are certainly lots of people who do think he is nice to people who are up, he is less nice to others, but I just think he has a very specific personality in this way.
Katie, of course, you're the Washington correspondent for The Times. Keir Starmer gave his approval and his backing, of course, to Mandelson when he was ambassador last year, and even initially defended him when the first Epstein stuff came out. Where does this leave Keir Starmer? Because many are accusing him tonight of having a severe lack of judgment, which, amongst other things, they are calling for him to resign over.
Yeah, look, one of the things I said to Peter Mandelson when we had our follow-up conversation after these files were released was, he's always said, I told Downing Street everything. And I said, well, given all that's come out now, you can say you didn't tell Downing Street everything. And his point was, I don't remember everything. But I think that therefore there's two ways of looking at it. Downing Street clearly didn't have a grasp of how deep the relationship was. However, should figures such as Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff, be more aware of the risk given their friendship? We already knew that Peter Mandelson had described Epstein as his best pal.
Yeah.
Like, there is enough out there to suggest there was a close relationship. And I think that's Peter Mandelson's view too, which is, he feels, and this is ahead of some of the things we've seen today, but at the point of speaking, that lots of the things that have come out are very embarrassing. There was enough to point to begin with, which is he had a close friendship going back over a decade over this period of time, and Labour knew enough about it. And people will say, you should never have taken the job, Peter Mandelson, but the argument there is, well, Labour also had enough hints that this friendship was more than just, you know, a passing acquaintance, and they still appointed him.
Yeah, as you said, even if it was just 1% of what we know now, and it was just that, Mandelson was a good guy and called him his best pal, nobody can, as far as I can tell, nobody can understand why Starmer gave him the job in the first place. What do you think the Trump administration thinks of this furore and shenanigans? I mean, do they even know, do you think?
It's a funny one. You must have this too, being in DC. Often you have the UK side saying everyone's getting very angry and het up.
And they don't know anything about it,
Yeah, and I had this back when Peter Mandelson was about to be forced out, and I was getting calls saying he's going to go in an hour's time, and I just said, I'm walking around DC and no one is talking about Peter Mandelson.
No.
So I think it's switched off. I would say there are obviously reasons that Downing Street did appoint him and people like Morgan McSween were pushing, which was he was quite skilled. If you look at some of the ways the UK-US relationship has fallen apart, on the trade deal being paused, the technology partnership, and various things, there are signs of why you need a diplomat there. But I think weighing down the risk-benefit analysis is what Downing Street aides are, and perhaps Keir Starmer are now going to be judged for.
Okay. Have you spoken to Mandelson today? Have you tried him?
Haven't had a reply today.
So you did try him? He's gone underground.
I'd like to tell people when an interview is coming out.
Yeah, okay, got it. Well, Casey, well done. It's a great interview. Well done. It's really enlightening details, some great colour in there. Leo Kersey, you down the line there? I think you're still with us. Mandelson saying he doesn't recollect having 75 grand into his bank account. What's your take on Starmer? I don't really care about Mandelson anymore. What's your take on Starmer and all this?
I mean, this has got to be catastrophic for Starmer and for the Labour establishment as a whole. I mean, they put him into the US as the US ambassador. That's one of the top diplomatic roles, probably the top diplomatic role. And Starmer was happy to have him in. I mean, Starmer did pull him out pretty quick when it looked like more revelations were coming out. But yeah, I mean, this has got to be catastrophic for the level of trust you can have in our officials. I mean, Mandelson, as well as being, at one point he was one of the top 3 most powerful people in Labour, behind Gordon Brown and Tony Blair, and now he's in the House of Lords as well. For somebody like that to be taking money from an overseas financier paedophile to sort of give advice on how to lobby the British government, giving over government secrets, that's insane. I mean, this is the stuff of conspiracy theories, but it's happening right in front of us.
Anybody who knows anything about money markets or even just basic trading, if you've got a heads up that the euro is about to be bailed out for $500 billion, dollars or euros?
Yeah.
You can make infinite amounts of money. It's like a cheat. You go online, you long the euro, and you reap the rewards the next day.
This guy is going to
he's
jail.
Now being probed by the police.
This guy is going to jail. I'm telling you.
By the police for it. All right, Leo. We'll catch up later on in the show. Thanks very much, Leo Kersey.
Cheers.
Right, gbnews.com/your say. Let me know what you think about that. I think the Mandelson situation is going to keep on rolling on. It's something to keep an eye on at least. But the big question now is, because Bill and Hillary Clinton are going to testify in Congress to the House Oversight Committee, will Mandelson come over? Will the former Prince Andrew come over as well? Right, let's move on. A story you and I have been following very closely. It all started when 7 NHS nurses scored a decisive victory for biological reality and single-sex spaces. Bethany Hutchinson and 6 of her colleagues were found to be victims of harassment and sex discrimination after County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust allowed a biological male into their single-sex space. So it was a bloke who transitioned into a trans woman, loitering around the toilets, changing rooms and so on, just a complete menace. Well, now she's taken the campaign for female dignity and common sense global. They're here in America, in Washington, D.C. They're speaking at a really influential summit. The trailblazing nurses will warn US delegates and lawmakers of institutional capture in the UK and how ideology can threaten safeguarding. I'm delighted to say they're with me now in the GBNews studio, Nurse Bethany Hutchinson and the Chief Exec of the Christian Legal Centre, Andrea Williams. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Nice to see you. How are you doing?
Good,
it's cold in DC, right?
Oh, it is very cold.
I hope you brought your coats and snow boots. So you are flying, just tell us what you're doing. So you're flying the flag here in the United States, basically telling very influential US lawmakers, policymakers, what a mess our NHS policy is in, right? Is that it?
Absolutely, yeah. And to show that this is the extent that women are having to go in order to protect their dignity and their safe spaces.
Just explain, remind our viewers who have maybe forgotten, what happened up in Darlington?
Yeah, so in 2023, it became apparent that there was a male using the female space, and a number of nurses were very upset about this. There was a nurse that contacted me and said, I'm a survivor of sexual abuse, and I'm really unhappy about this. This person's been bothering me. I'm having panic attacks pre and post work. We need to do something about this, and I decided to raise the issue within the NHS.
But the caveat was that the nurses who complained about this guy, they were then put through disciplinary, is that right?
Yes, the most extraordinary thing about this is that it could have been dealt with 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Just by saying to the man who was in their changing room, why don't you have this room over there? And let the nurses be in the female changing room. It could have all have been dealt with, and we raised it under the radar, and we sought to deal with it quietly and well in order to protect these amazing nurses. Because the other truth is this, they come forward and they're the brave ones. Many of the other nurses are too scared to speak because they're being told by people higher up within the NHS, don't speak about this at all, otherwise you'll be in trouble.
So what is, just very briefly, it's a blind point, but I'm very curious, what is the psychology behind a trans woman, as you said, just go and use another space because you're outnumbered here. All the women want you to go and use another space. What? No big deal. You live your life, but just use another space for the 20 seconds you're going to be in there. What is the psychology behind insisting they have to impose themselves on women?
Well, it's the outworking of a radical Equality Act type agenda which says I am a trans woman and I need to be protected under equality measures and under human right measure. It's my right to be protected. I am a woman and I need to be treated like a woman, and when it comes to the rights culture I will therefore be able to enter a women's space. And this person, I mean, not that it really makes a difference, but looked exactly like a man. He was wandering around in boxer shorts in the changing room.
Really?
And the thing about it all is not just him, but the fact that the hierarchy within the hospital and within the NHS, and indeed right up to at government level, all the people that might have had power just simply dug in to protect him over these amazing nurses.
So there was a tribunal, an employment tribunal. You guys won emphatically, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
What did the tribunal rule?
They ruled that that basically they had put us in a very precarious situation, and that it was a violation of our privacy and dignity.
So, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has he now changed national NHS policy off the back of this?
No, he hasn't.
Why not? What's the problem?
I have absolutely no idea. I feel like he's dragging his feet. He is indecisive about it, which is a shame because he did come out and say, you know, he supported us, but it seems like it's all lip service at the moment.
Well, he's kind of U-turned on a couple of things, hasn't he? He initially came out and said that he was against children being given puberty blockers and cross hormones and so on, and then he received some flack from, I guess you could describe them as, you know, the left of centre, if you're being generous, and now he's approved a trial for puberty blockers.
Yeah.
So do you think he's acting under pressure from supporters or potential voters as opposed to doing what's right?
I believe so, yeah.
And what are you doing here in the US? You're trying to highlight basically the insanity of Streeting and the NHS.
Absolutely, and that these policies actually create an atmosphere of fear within organisations, and people who believe in biological reality are frightened to speak out.
Do you think they're more advanced here in the administration here? Forget the politics and Trump or your opinions here, but do you think generally the consensus of government policy here on the trans debate, the gender debate, is more advanced here?
I think they're not as far gone as we are, so they're not because what happens at the moment, it seems that most of the debate in the US on this is around sports and the unfair advantage that a man might physically have. But what we have in the UK is men, where it ends up is men in women's changing rooms, where it ends up is teachers losing their job that won't socially transition 8 and 9-year-olds. This has happened, this is one of our cases. She's the one that loses her licence. Teachers losing their licences, judges losing their licences, doctors losing their licences for trying to uphold biological reality, for refusing to put on medical forms that a man is a woman. So it ends up in a legal insanity and in a lived insanity that we're trying to cover over in policy, and we're here to say that that's where it ends up, and we're hoping that men and women of influence here will speak into the heart of government back in Westminster.
When you tell Americans about what you went through back in Darlington, what do they say?
I mean, they're shocked. They can't believe it. But they also take it on board and they think, we're not going to let this happen here.
Wes Streeting comes on the channel fairly often. He's probably one of the more popular cabinet members on GB News. If he's watching tonight, which he may be, or tomorrow morning when he catches up, what's your message to him?
My message is that this is not complex and that he needs to roll out guidance. We provided a policy, actually a draft policy, and he needs to take that on board and roll it out.
Great stuff. When's the event you're going to?
It's tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The first day?
Yes.
Excellent. And you're here until when? When are you going home?
Thursday.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, look, good luck with it.
Thank you.
I will say the lawmakers here, politicians, the administration here are indirectly or not having a lot of pressure on what's going on in the UK. So I think you're doing the right thing. And again, as you said, it's just common sense.
It's common sense.
I think we get bogged down too much, not just with the trans debate or whatever, but with so many simple things about academics and studies and focus groups. It's just common sense. These are things 20 years ago.
There would have been no question about it because it's reality. And in order for institutions and law and society generally to function, we just need common sense, truth.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully there's a new dawn of common sense on the way. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate your company tonight. Good luck tomorrow, and stay warm in DC as well. Right. Still ahead on the Late Show Live, we'll be getting stuck into a great story which I'm very keen about. NASA is beginning a crucial test of its Space Launch System rocket, which could see another moon landing. I've got a big question. Would you go to the moon or Mars or even out of space if you knew you were going to be the first person to go to Mars, for example, but you were never going to come back? gbnews.com/your say. My wife knows my answer to that and she's not happy with it. Back after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A wet start in the south, but it's also going to turn colder across northern and eastern parts of the UK through the day, and that means there will be some snow in places by the end of the day. Actually, we start with snow across eastern Scotland, mostly over hills. There'll be some sleet and snow showers additionally for parts of Orkney and Shetland through the day. But it's all rain further south, and it's certainly a damp start to the day for many areas, although the more persistent rain moves north and turns more showery across the southwest. Mild here. Elsewhere, it's going to feel cold with a raw east to southeast wind. And that wind will bring even colder air in overnight. So as the main band of rain progresses northwards, we're going to see some snow in places by dawn. At first, it's hill and mountain snow across eastern Scotland, but that's likely to come down to much lower levels overnight. Northern Ireland, a damp start to the evening, but the more persistent rain at this stage is across Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, pushing into the Pennines, the Peak District, where there will be snow falling on the peaks. And that snow tending to settle on higher parts of Wales and northern England, but it will come down to much lower levels for eastern Scotland by the end of the night. We're talking about a little bit of patchy wet snow and sleet right down below 100 metres for eastern Scotland, but more significant lying snow above 200 metres, 5 to 10 centimetres by dawn. So a wintry scene for parts of eastern Scotland, especially over higher areas. First thing Wednesday could be some disruption on some of the higher routes. But that snow level will rise through the day. Milder air is moving up from the south, turning much of the snow back to rain. Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, a damp day to come, but brighter skies for England and Wales, some sunshine in places, particularly towards the southeast, feeling a little bit milder.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back. Let's dive into some of the main stories on the front pages tomorrow, starting with the Telegraph. Actually, there's only one story doing the rounds, no guesses. Telegraph headline reads, Mandelson leaked number 10 emails to Epstein. The Guardian calls for Mandelson to face police inquiry over alleged leak to Epstein. The Eye, Lord Mandelson reported to police for leaking number 10 files to Epstein. The Express, let's protect our children from knife harm. That's on the first anniversary of the murder of Harvey Wilgoose. The Metro, computer says no, no, no. Bots moan about humans in chat group. That's a chilling story, actually. It's about a bunch of AI language models talking to themselves on a forum and then basically questioning the existence of humanity. I mean, if you want to know where AI is going, take a look at that. The Mirror, Mandelson, police probe Epstein links. The Times, police look into Epstein leaks from Mandelson, and junior doctors threaten strikes until the summer. And the Daily Mail, Labour's Dark Lord now faces a criminal inquiry. I mean, what do you expect from someone nicknamed the Dark Lord and the Prince of Darkness? And there's that picture of him and his wife. I want to stop looking at that picture, actually. Can we stop publishing it? The Sun, Kim and Lewis's 3 dates in 3 nights. This is This is the big story of the day. Kim Kardashian and Lewis Hamilton have had 3 dates and 3 nights. First it was the Cotswolds, then it was London, and then they jetted to Paris. Well done them. Joining me in Washington's my panel, Laurie Watkins and Tim Dosha, and Leo Curtis is still down the line. Leo, what story would you like to get stuck into? There's one on Ukraine, actually, that may be of interest to you.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to be breaking. It's more on social media at the moment. It hasn't seemed to have made it to the news outlets yet, but ballistic missiles are seen over Kyiv and Dnipro. This is just hours after Trump, of course, got the accord from Putin, got an agreement that Putin wasn't going to bomb civilians in Ukrainian cities and wasn't going to bomb energy infrastructure for the next week, because, you know, obviously people are freezing to death. So it was a call for humanitarian help almost from Putin. And Putin agreed, and this seems like he's thumbing his nose at Trump. He agrees to Trump's request, and so many times we've seen this sort of disrespect of Trump. And I wonder, obviously attention's drifted away from Ukraine now, but I wonder if this is going to force Trump to actually, at some point, he's got to feel that level of disrespect and actually sort it out. Although he does have his hands quite full with Iran, with Venezuela, with various other places around the world. The other issue around Ukraine is Putin is planning to send thousands of criminals and soldiers into Europe, using Europe's open borders to send these soldiers in to cause havoc, commit crime, destroy infrastructure, commit terror atrocities. At the moment, we'll be powerless to do anything to stop it, because apparently the ECHR and all our left-wing laws and our left-wing judges mean that we've just got to bend over and take it. But hopefully by then we'll have some proper right-wing parties in power in Europe.
Well, Leo, I would argue that's happening already, the invasion of Europe and the destruction of culture and terrorist attacks, and I mean, it's happening already. What's new? Tim, what should Trump do about Ukraine and Russia? I mean, it is quite clear Putin's taking Trump for a ride, but the administration have their hands full with so many... of their own making, I will say. They've decided to get involved in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Iran. What should they do?
The good thing about being a superpower is that you can walk and chew gum at the same time. There's no question about that. But the question is Ronald Reagan used to say we want peace through strength. And President Trump says peace through strength all the time. Putin just does strength through strength. And at some point, President Trump is going to have to punch the bully in the nose. And I don't exactly know what that looks like. I'm not a fan of forever wars. I'm not a fan of getting in nation building or anything like that. But at some point, you got to call a spade here and say that this was an original sin. He invaded, shouldn't have done it. It's cost billions of dollars for the U.S. taxpayer to do this. It's time to end it, so you better end it in the right way.
Laurie, your take? How does this end?
Well, I'm just still very confused about Greenland. Suddenly we're not really talking about it anymore.
You got the deal.
Was also,
Tick.
Yeah, okay. And then that was part of the strategic reason for why the United States needed this piece of ice, basically, was because of Russia, etc. But the bottom line is this. President Trump looks weak on Russia, on Ukraine. He said that he was going to solve this problem within days, if not weeks, of him being
Wait, by week, do you mean diplomatic? Because he's trying diplomacy right now, Laurie. This is called diplomacy. This is called diplomacy. And if he didn't do it, you would be
Putin.
And if he didn't do this, Laurie, you'd be saying, oh, he's a bull and a bear, and he's acting in the worst interests of America by just flippantly going in. This is his act of diplomacy right now. And trust me, when he's made up his mind, you'll know it.
Laurie, what do you want to see happen in Ukraine? What would you ideally like to see President Trump do?
Well, for more than 6 to 9 months, I wish we would have given them the kind of weaponry that they needed, which would have allowed them to react in much more, quick fashion. We didn't do that. We didn't do that under the Biden administration either. That was a huge criticism that I had. These Javelin missiles, etc. We just waited around and...
We did.
Yeah, the United States did. Basically jerked the Ukrainians around, dangling things in front of them. And, we had to go through methods that I believe in, that are under the Constitution, of going through authorizers and appropriators to get that money, to be able to provide that equipment, that arsenal, weaponry, etc., to those contractors and to the military personnel over there.
Ben,
that takes time to do.
Who was president when this whole thing happened?
Well, it was Biden, and I think Putin went in because he saw what happened in Afghanistan, which was, I mean, the biggest tragic. It was a dark comedy, the biggest dark comedy tragedy going. The sight of whatever planes, were they Hercules? I don't think you use Hercules planes. The sight of American military planes taking off with Afghans hanging to the fuselage and the landing gear, and I mean, the whole thing was just pathetic. It was an embarrassing time for your great country, and I think Putin saw that. Leo, I don't know what you think about this. I think Putin saw that and thought, that guy in the White House is half asleep. In fact, he's asleep pretty much most of the time. I'm going to go in.
Yeah, and he wasn't punished after the invasion of Crimea, the annexation of Crimea, and also Europe. Europe never took any action, never took any serious action, continued to buy billions of dollars worth of Russian hydrocarbons. So yeah, I mean, really, the Democrats and Europe, European countries were caught napping.
Okay. Enough about despots and wars and murder and pedos and pedo rings and blackmail plots and whatever else. Illegal migrants. I'm going to get stuck into a story I absolutely love and I'm keen about. NASA is beginning a crucial test of its space launch system rocket. This is ahead of a proposed mission that could start as early as the 8th of February, which could see 4 astronauts launched into deep space for the first time since the Apollo program. And in a reflection of how much I love the Apollo program, my first son's nickname, his middle name, is Apollo because he was born on the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landings. Let's take a quick look at the promo for this new mission to the moon.
Specialist. I'm Jeremy Hansen. I'm a mission specialist. I'm Victor Glover. I'm the pilot. I'm Reed Wiseman. I'm the commander for the Artemis 2 mission to the moon.
To the moon.
To the moon. To the moon.
Oh, I love it. Yes, baby. Sign me up. Good luck to those heroes. Plans to return the US astronauts to the moon have been embraced and then sidelined from one presidential administration to the next. However, now that seems arguably closer than it ever has been before. Andy Lown joins me now down the line, space expert Andy Lowndes. Andy, great to see you. The first question is, why did it take us so long to go back to the moon? What's changed?
Yeah, complicated answer really. To be honest, we got to the moon in the 1960s and early 70s with technology that was really pushing the very limits of it. President Nixon cancelled the program, and actually for good reasons when you look at it, because he realised it wasn't really going anywhere apart to the moon and he couldn't really develop it. So he needed to do Earth orbital work. And once the technology had been built up again in a more suitable manner, could we really go back to the moon? And not go back just to plant a flag, but to go back for practical reasons, more detailed scientific research. And of course, there's an economic reason for going to the moon now, where we're looking for rare earth materials and to use minerals from the moon itself, which is going to be becoming cost effective to bring back. And there's a race again on now with China, who are after the same thing. When you see all these countries going for it, this is all about raw materials. This is economics as much as exploration. So that's why now is a particular time to go. But the development of SLS has been a bit of a pain in the neck for many people, because it's been this slow, trugging progress using a technology which is an expendable technology. You throw the rockets away, and it was sort of overtaken to a certain degree by SpaceX with their Falcon launchers and their Falcon super launcher, because of course they're fully reusable. So the technology has really got us to a position where it's going to be practical and cost effective to go back to the moon.
I know. Can you believe there's some people who go around calling Elon Musk thick or an idiot? I mean, those Falcon rocket launches and the way they land back on Earth is incredible. Andy, what are the pictures we're looking at now in Florida? Where is this? It's the Artemis 2 fuel test. The rocket is called Artemis, right? Or that's the program? Sorry, it's called Artemis 2. Where is this? Yeah, the Kennedy Space Center?
Yeah, the program is the Artemis program. Artemis 2 is the second launch of it, which will be a crewed mission to do a free return mission around the moon. It's going on what's called the wet test. All the vehicles have to go through the wet test. This is where you fuel the whole thing up, as if you're going to launch, but you don't launch, and there's no crew on board at this moment in time. And the idea is to test all the systems out, test the fueling systems, the pressurization systems, the electronic systems. There's a lot of testing to be done before they ever even get to think about putting the astronauts on. This test must be complete and successful before you have any opportunity to launch the crew into space. On previous tests, you probably remember there's been issues with leakage, which is a problem. This is a liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen fuel thing. Liquid hydrogen always leaks. There's not a lot. You've got to minimise it as much as you can. The hydrogen 2, very, very small molecule, smallest molecule you can get. And that is always going to leak. Interestingly enough, the best sealants for this and the best piping systems that you can actually get for this is actually made in Britain, strangely enough. We're exceptionally good at controlling hydrogen.
Hey.
So it's always a difficult one to do. It's modern technology to be used for it. So there's always an issue. You've got to get the pressurization right, because the pressure will actually force it through the most tiniest imaginable gap to actually get through. So they have to test it and mitigate whether or not it is safe for launch. So we're going to have to see that. We know from some of the data that's coming through from us already that there has actually been a little bit of leakage, but it's very, very minimal indeed. So they're actually troubleshooting that at the moment. But we won't really know till about 6 a.m. our time, 6 a.m. GMT, whether or not it has been a success or not. And they may not give us actually any information out till about 5 o'clock. Today, whether or not 5 o'clock in the evening today, whether or not they're passed the tests and they're going to go for a human launch, probably around about the 8th.
So when could the astronauts essentially take off? If everything's fine, the tests are great, when could the astronauts be on their way to the moon? And just looking at the picture now, just enlighten me, where do they sit, for a better word? Where do they go?
Right at the top of the vehicle. I've actually got a model here so you can actually have a look. So here's the rocket itself.
Oh, yes, please.
And they're right at the top here. This is a cowling on the top of the rocket. So then you actually have them 4 astronauts in the top here, and the cowling is over the top. So this is where they're right at the top of the vehicle. And if all goes well, as early as Sunday, but that depends on if the test works, and obviously if the weather is good at the time. And then they have a possibility of the last opportunity would be the 11th. And then, of course, they miss their flight position. So you've got to get the Earth and the Moon in the right positions to launch, and then you actually have to skip it for a few weeks before the next launch. So they've got up 8, 9, 10, 11th to have opportunities to launch a crew to the Moon.
And do we know much about the crew? Do you know their backgrounds, what they did before? I'm guessing they're all fighter pilots or something, are they?
Well, yes, they're all trained pilots and engineers in their own right, and this is really quite important that they're actually doing that. And of course, we're seeing it from Canada as well. Canadian astronaut is going there. And some people have been making a big deal that it's going to be the first woman to fly around the moon and the first person of colour. To be quite frank, I couldn't care less. These are humans which are going into space, and we've always been that way in the space programme. If you notice, we don't call it a female astronaut or a black astronaut. They're simply astronauts. And I think that's quite important that we keep this onto the ground here, that this is about humans flying into space. They are the best qualified to do the job.
Yeah.
That's why they're in the position to do it, not for any other reason. I think that's an important message we need to get out to people.
Keep DEI... Yeah, sorry, Andy, to interrupt. Keep DEI out of space, I say. Is that the same with sort of international relations, like sort of Russian cosmonauts and so on? Is that... The fact that they've invaded Ukraine, does that not matter once you're in space? You all work together still on the ISS, the International Space Station? What's going on with Russia?
You've got to remember that these are professional people. There's work to do on the International Space Station. You're trained purely to do that. You're focused wholly on what your job is to do. And that's really important. In science, when I was in science, you haven't got time for anything else. You've just got too busy to focus on your work, because that's what you need to do and that's what you're interested in. You're not interested in the politics at all. So once they get to the space station, they're doing what they're trained to do, and you do it professionally to the best of your ability. And that's how it's got to be. In fact, if anything, science and the astronaut corps are a good example to the rest of the world of how we should actually conduct ourselves on an international basis, because we just don't have time for the nonsense.
Andy, one more question. This isn't something that I subscribe to because I think it's BS, but there are some people probably watching now saying we never went to the moon. It's a conspiracy. What do you say to them?
While I think they should go back to school, learn some proper science, because if they learnt proper science, you'd realise that, of course, we went to the moon. There's great evidence to show that we did it. And also the bits and pieces that they come out to say for what reason the flag's flapping or shadows are wrong. I suggest they learn science, because I haven't really much time for these people at all.
Yeah, although talk about the Van Allen belt, or, you know, why is this flag not moving? Where are the stars and so on?
No,
yeah. Andy, thanks very much. I'm really excited. I love your jacket, by the way, as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy Lyons. Appreciate it. See you soon. That's Andy Lound, space expert. And yeah, I love it. I love his enthusiasm and the jacket. gbnews.com/your say. Right, before we go, earlier today I went onto the streets of DC to get the people's opinion on the woke fest we saw at the Grammys and whether we should be listening to celebrities anymore. This is what they said.
It was no borders when the English were taking land.
So does that mean we should have no borders now?
No one owns the land.
No one owns it?
No.
You know Billie Eilish, the singer, at the Grammys last night, she said, nobody is illegal because we're on stolen land.
You know, every country has a border and they have to protect the country.
Sounds sensible, right?
Yeah.
Oh, do you listen to celebrities? You know when they preach and they get on the podium and they preach about politics, do you think they should shut up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be quiet.
Yeah. If it's stolen land, I mean, who stole it from who?
Well, I'm not going to get into those politics.
No one on this earth owns the land.
Who owns your house then? I'll just come to your house tonight, shall I?
I pay rent.
Do you believe in borders? Or everyone's just run riot and go wherever they want?
I believe in borders on paper.
Yeah.
That's about it, for real.
What about borders in real life?
Not really, no.
You don't believe in borders?
No.
Can I have your house keys then?
That's crossing the border.
Oh, yeah, so you do believe in borders?
A little bit.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Well, that same argument applies then. Should I not come to your house tonight and just let myself in and make myself a cup of coffee and get in your bed? Not with you there.
I mean, that's different. If I invite you in, that's different than you just breaking in. So that's two different things.
Laurie, what did you make of the woke fest at the Grammys? I can imagine you were home watching it with your popcorn and go, yeah, you go, girl, you go, Billie Eilish.
I was not watching, but I'm not surprised. No, why? Oh, come on! Don't feign that you're surprised over that. No, I thought it was interesting. You know, using their First Amendment rights of voicing their opinion. Hollywood, though, as we all know, especially around election time, when the superstars come out as principals for either candidate and go do concerts and shows and try to get voters out to the polls, that Hollywood, like the average American, does not vote or usually feel the same way that, you know, Hollywood does. So I go by more polls than what Hollywood actors and musical artists have to say. But I appreciate them standing up for people's rights and using their platforms to speak out against the violent and, you know, very aggressive acts that ICE has been committing for weeks, if not months, if not for the first year of this Trump second term.
Tim, your take?
I think Billie Eilish's time has passed. I think the real mind behind Billie Eilish's music is the guy standing next to her brother Phineas.
Well, she just won a Grammy, didn't she?
Well,
Yeah.
it's Phineas's. It should be Phineas's Grammy is what I'm
talented,
saying, since
actually.
he's the songwriter and
Yeah.
he's got the talent
She's
and
laughing
she's
all
the
the way to
face.
the bank.
And so if she wants to pontificate about that, great. But in the end, your talent is what speaks for itself. And as we talked about earlier, the record sales are not what they used to be. The streams are not what they used to be. And if you want to pontificate, great, run for office. But you're going to probably have to lay off the weed first, Billy.
Leo, what I found on the streets of DC was people were saying, yeah, Billy's right. Yeah, no borders. It's stolen land. But then when I say, OK, well, give me the keys to your house then. I'll come in tonight. They say, well, no, that would be illegally entering.
Yeah, this is what gets me about it, the hypocrisy of it. Not just Billie Eilish in her house, her gated mansion with her security guards. I'd love to have that level of security on my country. But if you go to the Grammys, if you try to illegally enter the Grammys, you get turfed out by burly security guards who kind of look a bit like the ICE guys. So if it's a good principle to just allow anybody to go anywhere, allow it at the Grammys, allow it at Billie Eilish's house. And also, people people say, oh, but it's not the same thing. Oh, the country's not the same as a house. And it's like, yeah, no, a country is actually more important than the Grammys. A country should be defended more robustly than the Grammys is defended. And also, it's the left's it's because of the left bringing in millions and millions of migrants to tilt the electoral balance that we've got this problem. The left created this problem by bringing the people in. They knew it was against the law. They knew they'd have to be removed when somebody sensible got into power. So the left caused this issue. The left have blood on their hands for the killings of Renee Good and Alex Pretty. And frankly, the left need to take responsibility for it.
Do you take responsibility, Laurie?
Do I personally?
As the left, I suppose you are the representative of the left.
That's all I heard was the left. Oh my God.
He's got a point there, hasn't he?
I think so much noise, viewers. So much noise.
But the truth is the truth, and the illegals are here, and they're criminals, and they are doing things that should cause them to be removed from this country. And so I do think that there's a very valid point that you can't just say ICE out and look at people who have actually been killed by or affected by these people. There's a completely other side to this, and the left has completely failed that.
Well, I'm saying ICE out tonight, but not the immigration enforcement. I'm saying ICE out on the streets. It's been minus 15 here the last couple of days in DC. The ICE needs to go. I'm fed up with it. I nearly stacked it about 10 times. One question before I let you all go. Leo, what are you up to tomorrow, very quickly?
Tomorrow? What is it, Tuesday? I'm going to have a lie-in. It's 2 a.m. here.
Yeah. All right. Tim, what are you doing tomorrow?
What am I doing? I'm going to be rolling in the snow.
No, no, we don't want that. Laurie?
Oh, I'm going to a Wizards-Knicks game tomorrow night, so I'm excited.
I've never seen the Wizards win since I've been in DC. I've gone to watch them a few times. The Wizards, the Washington Wizards basketball team, they never win. I think I'm going to California tomorrow for a top secret story, which I'll share with you lovely GBNews viewers very shortly. Guys, thanks for your help tonight. Thanks, Tim, man. Laurie, Leo, appreciate you. Sweet dreams, good night. And viewers, we'll see you tomorrow, midnight. Bev will be here, and I'll catch you later in the week. Good night.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A wet start in the south, but it's also going to turn colder across northern and eastern parts of the UK through the day, and that means there will be some snow in places by the end of the day. Actually, we start with snow across eastern Scotland, mostly over hills. There'll be some sleet and snow showers additionally for parts of Orkney and Shetland through the day. But it's all rain further south, and it's certainly a damp start to the day for many areas, although the more persistent rain moves north and turns more showery across the southwest. Mild here. Elsewhere, it's going to feel cold with a raw east to southeast wind. And that wind will bring even colder air in overnight. So as the main band of rain progresses northwards, we're going to see some snow in places by dawn. At first, it's hill and mountain snow across eastern Scotland, but that's likely to come down to much lower levels overnight. Northern Ireland, a damp start to the evening, but the more persistent rain at this stage is across Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, pushing into the Pennines, the Peak District, where there will be snow falling on the peaks. And that snow tending to settle on higher parts of Wales and northern England, but it will come down to much lower levels for eastern Scotland by the end of the night. We're talking about a little bit of patchy wet snow and sleet right down below 100 metres for eastern Scotland, but more significant lying snow above 200 metres, 5 to 10 centimetres by dawn. So a wintry scene for parts of eastern Scotland, especially over higher areas. First thing Wednesday could be some disruption on some of the higher routes. But that snow level will rise through the day. Milder air is moving up from the south, turning much of the snow back to rain. Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, a damp day to come, but brighter skies for England and Wales, some sunshine in places, particularly towards the southeast, feeling a little bit milder.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good evening to you and welcome to Farage with me, your host tonight, Martin Daubney. Coming up on tonight's show.
Speed women, U-turn. The two-child benefit cap, U-turn. Grooming gangs inquiry, U-turn. The family farms tax, U-turn.
Yes, and yet another, the latest backbench revolt. Labour MPs have today blasted Sir Keir Starmer's hugely controversial plans to put migrants in brand new taxpayer-funded council housing. So, could we be looking at yet another U-turn, the 15th from the Prime Minister, some are calling Captain U-turn. And meanwhile,
our welfare state is trapping people not just in poverty, but out of work.
yes, on the day we discover the United Kingdom is now officially the sick man of the G7. A new investigation has revealed an additional £10 billion in hidden taxpayer-funded freebies, and that's on top of our already astronomical £100 billion universal annual credit bill. And in other news today, brand new analysis has revealed that local council spending on migrant social care is up an astonishing 165% over the last 5 years. Now, almost £750 million every single year paid for by you, the great British taxpayer. And finally,
we don't just want to hear an apology, we want reparations.
yes, as a new £730,000 Church of England diversity initiative is set to push anti-racism sermons. We'll be looking at whether the new Archbishop of Canterbury will be gullible enough to press ahead with reparations for slavery. That's all to come on tonight's action-packed show, but first, here's your headlines and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good evening to you. Just coming up to 2 minutes past 7. The top story, Peter Mandelson has now been reported to police amid fresh claims he gave Jeffrey Epstein advance notice of a €500 billion Eurozone bailout during the financial crisis. The SNP and Reform UK have referred the former cabinet minister to the Metropolitan Force following the release of millions of US Justice Department files. The documents appear to show Mandelson shared sensitive government information with Epstein while serving as a senior minister and received $75,000 in payments when he was a Labour MP. Sir Keir Starmer has said Mandelson should not remain in the House of Lords and has ordered an urgent review into all contact between the pair while Mandelson was in government. Lord Mandelson, though, denies any wrongdoing, saying he has no recollection of the payments and has resigned from the Labour Party to avoid what he calls further embarrassment. Well, earlier today, the Cabinet Minister Darren Jones told the Commons the revelations raise serious concerns about Mandelson's conduct in office.
Peter Mandelson must account for his actions and conduct. It is an understatement to say that his decision to continue a close relationship with a convicted paedophile, including discussing private government business, falls far below the standards expected of any minister. His behaviour was unequivocally wrong and an insult to the women and girls who suffered. No government minister of any political party should have, nor ever should, behave in this way.
The mother of Rhiannon White says the government must be held accountable for her daughter's death after her killer was jailed for life. Rhiannon was murdered at a train station in Walsall, stabbed 23 times with a screwdriver by Deng Majek, an asylum seeker. Majek has been sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 29 years. Speaking to GB News earlier today, Siobhan White said her family will now campaign in Rhiannon's name, supporting other families and pushing for stronger protections for women and girls. Just a warning, this next clip does contain some distressing details.
There was absolutely no reason at all. No reason. As you've seen from the CCTV links, he literally just watched her for hours. There was no reason. They'd never even crossed words. We have sat quiet for 15 months for Rhiannon's sake, because I wanted justice. We're not a family that are going to go and kick off. What's the point? Because Rhiannon's not the first case, and sadly she won't be the last. But we were handed a life sentence today. I had to watch my daughter die.
Well, the Home Office has released a statement in response saying this vile criminal is behind bars where he belongs and has rightly received the strictest punishment, a life sentence. It went on to say that the Home Office shares public anger over what it called a broken system, insisting it is taking action to keep dangerous offenders out of the country and to close all asylum hotels. The independent rape gang inquiry has formally opened today in London with 2 weeks of public hearings now underway. That inquiry has been crowdfunded by Great Yarmouth MP Rupert Lowe and is expected to hear evidence from survivors, campaigners, whistleblowers and from public figures. Supporters say the process is designed to give victims a platform outside government-led structures amid long-standing concerns over accountability and delays. It does come, though, as ministers are preparing a separate national inquiry chaired by Anne Longfield, which is due to run for 3 years with a budget of £65 million. And tonight it has been confirmed that resident doctors in England have voted to continue industrial action for another 6 months, keeping pressure on the government over pay and conditions. The British Medical Association says 93.4% of those who voted backed further strikes. But worth noting, turnout was just over 52%, meaning roughly a third of all resident doctors actively supported action. The government says doctors have already had a nearly 29% pay rise over 3 years and insists talks are ongoing, with Health Secretary Wes Streeting saying he wants to avoid any further disruption in 2026. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour. Now, though, it's over to Martin.
Thank you, Sam.